You're watching In the Office. My name is Bray. Let's do some more quote learning. Today for episode number 24, I want to cover this idea that hunger teaches. I believe this to be true because in my own personal life I've experienced this. When I was a kid, my family split up. My parents got divorced and my mother had no income, and for a good while we were very hungry children. My mother applied for food stamps. She had WIC for the small children, but she got on food stamps and we went from being very, very scrawny to being, shall we say, ready for some exercise. We definitely had more food than we needed, but it was such an odd experience to go from living in a house where it was spaghetti and meatballs or SpaghettiOs and then ramen noodles, all the foods with which people use just to kind of sustain themselves, and drinking pitchers of tea because that was the cheapest drink to have. All of that put in my mind tells me just how important food is. But hunger teaches. There are lessons that you cannot learn without hunger pains. I have fasted many times, and I'm not currently fasting, so I'm not breaking the biblical mandate to tell you, hey, look at me, I'm fasting. But there are certain lessons in life that you just cannot learn without the absence of food. And when you learn these lessons, the appreciations that come into place, there was just no other way to get those lessons. And I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm reliving some of it in my mind as I'm talking about it. Not too long ago, I did 4 days without eating anything leading up to Mother's Day. And it was a very difficult task. From Wednesday to Sunday, I didn't eat any food. I believe I had 2 spoons of chicken broth because I had some dry mouth on the roof of my mouth. But the lessons that I learned, the dependencies that I had developed on certain drinks and foods were broken, and I had to lean into God to get me through. And He did, and I'm glad to report. But I want to transition quickly and make the main idea of this, which is that most people are not prepared at home if there were a food shortage. I want you to learn the lessons that come from being hungry, because I think that you need to learn those lessons at some point in your life. I did in my younger years, but maybe you can learn those now or artificially put yourself through those, like through fasting. But 3/4 of Americans, reported by AP, do not have enough food to get them through a short-term catastrophe. I live in the South where there are storms quite a bit. If you live on the coast, you probably have something similar. Like Louisiana has been ravaged with all these different storms and hurricanes, and people can't just go to the store when this happens because they're having to stay home. The power lines are in the streets, the water's shut off, all these catastrophes that happen. Those people have learned to live in those circumstances, but they plan by having plenty of food and water stored up at their house. So the AP report said that over 3/4 of Americans are just not prepared if there were a food shortage. I mean, 3/4 of Americans, you're talking about, that's over 200 million Americans. That's a lot of people that would be hungry in a pinch. And the reason I would ask you to be prepared for something like this is I know the psychological breakdown of people when they get hungry. We're not going to all sit around and be lethargic. We're going to be combatant. You're going to get angry and you're going to attack other people and do whatever it takes to get their food. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she has a quote that says, "I like food, I like eating, and I don't want to deprive myself of good food." Hear, hear. I'm the same way. I want to be able to eat good food. I have a pantry. It's a large pantry, and I have prepared for, these eventualities. And I don't want to have to use these foods because they're not some of my favorites. But I went to Aldi, which is a national chain of grocers, and I spent $100 the first time, and I stored up on canned goods. And then since that day that I've done that, I repeated it 3 times. But every so many months I'd go and I'd buy another $100 worth of canned items. So I have canned meats, beans, fruits, vegetables, and plenty of water. Gallons of water there are under $1, and you need water in the eventuality that your water gets shut off if there were a disaster, catastrophe. All food needs water to be cooked, and if you don't have enough water, then that right there may take you out faster than anything else. Like in the office, you have Michael, and he says, I'm not superstitious, I'm a little stitious. Well, I'm not a super prepper, I just like to be prepared. And the options it gives me in the event of a catastrophe, if some of my family didn't prepare, I'm a little extra prepared, and I can take care of my own. And I want that to be able to happen if that does take place. I have a system to roll off my food. I will start eating some of it different phases of the year so that I don't waste this food, and then I replace it with stuff that has a longer expiration date. There's a lot of strategy that can be employed, but just prepare yourself and your family. I don't sell food. I'm telling you to go to Aldi, go to Walmart, go to Kroger, go to Food Line, go to HEB, go to wherever you buy your groceries, and just have your little something in the pantry just in case. My recommendation is 10 days. 10 days is probably how long it takes for the cavalry to come in and get things fixed. But if you don't have enough food for 10 days, you might find yourself in a very desperate situation. And I would like you to learn the lessons that hunger teaches, but in an artificial way, through fasting. I wouldn't like you and your family to have to learn all the lessons of hunger through forced means, which could be a catastrophe. Take a $100 bill, go to the grocery store, buy yourself 20 gallons of water and 70-ish cans of food, plus tax. You'll be right there at the $100 mark, and you'll realize, hey, I feel better about my situation. And your family will too. It takes a little bit of the pressure off of not knowing whether or not you're ready in the case of an emergency. Be thinking on these things. Swing by the grocery store. What will $100 hurt if it brings all that peace of mind? Because there's lessons to be learned by hunger, but let's learn those lessons in an artificial simulation, which is maybe fasting, than it happened when a disaster strikes and you are not ready. Those are my thoughts on that. You be thinking, and we'll see you next time.